From the gritty streets of New York to the neon-lit chaos of future LA, the 80s had it all while also not taking itself too seriously, and of course Robocop is one of the prime examples of that. It was really a cultural touchstone, and it's clear that Robocop Rogue City wants to remind us of that classic magic, but while the game certainly captures the essence of the character, does it hit the same high notes as the legendary film that started it all? Let's dive in. First things first, the game sets you up right in the middle of Robocop's turf, the gritty, crime-ridden streets of Detroit. From the neon signs to the rundown buildings, you really do feel like you're stepping back into the world of the classic 1987 movie, and the atmosphere here is undoubtedly the game's strongest asset. It's dark, it's dystopian, and it nails that vibe that Robocop fans will love. You'll hear the whirring of Robocop's mechanical limbs, the ominous hum of futuristic tech, and of course the sound of a few familiar phrases.
Fortunate have arrived.
But while the setting is a nostalgia trip, you can also tell it was made on a budget. Don't get me wrong, there are moments when the city looks appropriately gritty and threatening, but it doesn't quite have the same jaw-dropping impact that you might expect these days. The graphics are good, but they're not mind-blowing, apart from when you are literally blowing apart people's minds, of course. The facial animations in particular sometimes feel a bit stiff, almost like the characters are trying to deliver lines, but they just can't quite muster up the full energy. As for the gameplay, well, I'm sure you know this already, but Robocop Rogue City is an FPS where you'll spend most of your time gunning down criminals, investigating crimes, and upgrading your robo enhancements. The shooting mechanics are serviceable, but honestly, they don't blow my mind. There is something satisfying about mowing down bad guys with the iconic Auto 9 pistol, but after a while, the gameplay does start to feel a bit repetitive. It's a lot of point, shoot, then move to the next area, and there's not a ton of variety in the way that you can approach combat, and that's a little disappointing when you think about the potential of Robocop's cybernetic abilities, as well as some other single-player FPS campaigns that we've had in recent years. The game does try to spice things up with some upgrades, allowing you to enhance Robocop's portfolio, but these do feel fairly standard, right? You can boost your health, upgrade your armour, or get a bigger magazine for your gun, but none of these upgrades feel particularly exciting or transformative. It's like the game wants you to feel like Robocop is getting more powerful, but at the end of the day it's really just numbers going up. There's not a lot of innovation or creativity in the gameplay loop. But hey, the good news is that it's still fun to blast your way through thugs. The satisfaction of seeing your bullets tear through enemies, especially with Robocop's trademark slow motion auto-target feature, is definitely a highlight, and it's also definitely a throwback to those glorious 80s action movie shootouts, where everything was just completely over the top and a little bit ridiculous. And that's something I definitely appreciate. If you're a fan of the original movie, you'll still get a good chunk of joy just from playing this game. The story takes you on a familiar ride, with Robocop being sent out to deal with corruption and criminal activity in Detroit, and it doesn't exactly break any new ground really. It almost feels like a lost sequel that might have been better suited as an early 90s direct-to-video feature. There are some decent twists and turns, but nothing that will leave you on the edge of your seat. It's a story that fits the Robocop universe, but it doesn't necessarily do anything special to elevate it beyond classic fan service. Now this isn't necessarily a bad thing after all. Robocop is all about that no-nonsense crime-fighting action, and if you're looking for a deep complex narrative then you might be in the wrong place. The story gets the job done, but don't expect any big emotional payoffs or plot twists that'll blow your mind. It's just Robocop. Although here's where the game does get a massive thumbs up, right? The voice acting. Robocop's iconic voice is completely spot on, but then I suppose it should be because they have brought back the original actor. And it is a huge part of what makes the game feel so true to the original films. Hearing him deliver classic lines still sends a shiver down the spine, and the rest of the cast do a decent job, but it's clear that Robocop is the star of the show. The sound effects are solid too. The soundtrack, while not necessarily as iconic as the original movie score, still has that synth-heavy futuristic vibe that fits the mood as well as versions of the main theme, and it doesn't try to do too much, but it gets the job done. And that's kind of how I'd describe the game as a whole. It's functional, but not groundbreaking. Overall, it does a good job of evoking the spirit of the original movies, and for that it does deserve credit. If you're looking for a deep or revolutionary experience, you might want to look elsewhere, but if you just want to step into the shoes of Robocop and enjoy a few hours of mindless explosive action, then Robocop Rogue City definitely fits the bill. It's not the best game ever, but it's a solid love letter to the franchise, and if you're a fan, you'll have fun. Don't expect to have your mind blown, it's not a masterpiece, but it's good enough to make you stop and say,
I'd buy that for $1.